Do you ever watch something that's so emotionally raw, so emotionally driven, it changes you from the inside out as you watch it? That's what we have with Angel's Egg. If you don't know, the creator of Angel's Egg is Mamoru Oshii, and he also created Ghost in the Shell. But if you think you'll like Angel's Egg just because you like Ghost in the Shell, you have another thing coming. Angel's Egg isn't a typical movie. In fact, you could argue that it's not a movie at all so much as motion art. It's not an easy watch. Personally, I can't watch it in one sitting. It always takes me about 2 or 3 sittings to just get through it. And the movie doesn't stop for you to catch up. It keeps going. It's going at its own pace. So every time you watch, you're gonna pick up something new. Your opinions are gonna change and you're gonna get a new theory. And what's most important about Angel's Egg is Oshii's not entirely sure what the message is himself. He says that's your job as the audience member to decide what the message is. So what does this mean? Well, this means that this movie is only for the people that think when they watch a movie. If you just watch a movie going, I just don't want to think for a while, I just want to be entertained, Angel's Egg ain't for you. In my personal opinion, this is going to sound harsh. I think the only people that don't like Angel's Egg are the people that are just too stupid to understand it. So I'm going to recap the plot of Angel's Egg, and then I'm going to go through a few theories about what Angel's Egg could be about. So the movie opens with a man in some kind of trippy wasteland. As a giant eye descends towards him, the eye is covered what seems to be different people, all with Christian symbolism on them. Actually, Christian symbolism is something in this movie that is just constant, and I'll explain why this is important later. Then we see a girl who seems to live in some sort of post-apocalyptic darkest timeline Earth. The architecture is very reminiscent of Victorian and Edwardian England. She is also very protective of an egg that she just carries everywhere. We find out that the girl goes out to fill jugs of water, and as she does so, she has a vision of herself in the water, which causes her to fear for her life, so she runs. After running for a while, tanks begin to pass by her, and out of one of the tanks on the end, we see the mysterious man from the beginning of the movie once again, and she runs from him. She begins to collect water once again, but notices statues of what seem to be wartime men with spears, and she becomes afraid of them. She runs, and this is when the man turns up and returns her egg to her, which she had left behind. The man then joins her. The statues from before come to life and begin to chase and attack shadows of fish, destroying everything in their path, unable to catch the shadows of the fish that are everywhere. The girl takes the man to a place where she goes a lot. Turns out she's been collecting water for God knows how long, a different jug for every day. And she leaves it in this place. This place, by the way, is filled with a bunch of fossilized animals. After the girl and the man sit down, he tells her the story of Noah's Ark. However, unlike the Bible version, in the man's story, the dove in Noah's Ark took such a long time to return that Noah and his family grew old and forgot why they were waiting for the dove, and as a result just became unimportant to them. They lost all sense of time, self, and space, and the man admits that this is how he feels. The girl then takes the man to a fossil of a large bird, which is similar to one he described earlier in one of his memories. The girl reveals that she thinks another one of these birds will hatch from her egg. We then have a shot that reveals our characters are currently inside an ark. The girl really does believe her egg will hatch, and the man tries to show her reality and is like, yeah, your egg won't hatch, it's all in your mind. But this doesn't shake her faith. And then she goes to sleep, but before doing so, asks the man once again, which is something she constantly asks throughout this movie. However, this time, he just responds with the same question. As the two of them take shelter and the man rests, the world begins to fill with water, and after a wide shot that lasts several minutes, the man gets up, takes the girl's egg and destroys it with his cross. When the girl finally wakes up, the man is gone, she finds her egg destroyed, lets out a blood-curdling scream and goes to chase after the man, then falls into a ravine, and as she is falling, she sees a grown-up version of herself reflected in the water, and actually transforms into this version once she hits the water. With her final breath before drowning, hundreds of eggs eject themselves from her body into the water, and the eggs turn into the vision from the beginning of the movie and the man's memory. The man is then stood on a beach, the eye emerges from the water, and in the statues this time there is a monument to the girl and her egg. We then zoom out and see everything we saw was set on an island in a sea of nothing, and the island is actually an overturned ark. So before I go on with my explanation, I do just want to stress that Oshii has repeatedly stressed that the explanation of this movie is up to you, the viewer. So this theory that I have is just that, a theory. If you don't agree, that's fine. If you do agree, great. So in the beginning we have this all-seeing eye, and I do believe that this eye is supposed to represent the eye of God, how the Christian God is omnipresent, he sees everything you do, he can hear what you think, he's everywhere, and how that's kind of, if you think about it, a little bit invasive. The statues that are frozen in time on this eye, unable to think, unable to move, unable to do anything themselves, are people that accept this invasiveness and just go along with it. So who does this make the man? Why is he not one of these statues? Well, there are several possibilities and we're gonna get into this. But first we have the girl with her egg. The egg represents both her innocence and her blind faith. And then when it comes to the water, that's also a representation of her blind faith, because she outright admits she doesn't know why she collects the water, she just knows she has to do it. But it's also a representation of life experience for her. For example, when you're a child or an adult, you mature every day. So every day she collects some water to represent how she is maturing every day. So why did the man destroy this girl's egg? This egg that represents both her innocence and her faith? Well, you kind of need to understand who this man is first. Like the egg represents two separate aspects of the girl that are both tied together, the man represents two separate beings that are at a crossroads. Part of what the man represents is Christ. You can find evidence in this in the fact that he's carrying a cross everywhere, he's got bandages on his hands where Jesus would have been nailed to the cross, and there's just a bunch of little things throughout the movie that represent this. And then to understand who else this man could be, you need to understand Oshii's history. So Oshii was actually going to go to seminary school instead of becoming a director. However, he decided to become a director in the end. By the time he got to Angel's Egg, he was actually questioning his faith, and he eventually just completely lost his faith in Christianity. As he was losing his faith, he created Angel's Egg. So to have Christ and Oshii at the same time destroy this girl's blind faith represents Oshii once and for all just going, nope, I don't believe in this. This isn't true. What really cements this is the fact the man could have destroyed the egg in a number of ways. It's a fucking egg. He could have cracked it. He could have stood on it. He could have done anything. But of all things, he decides to destroy it with his cross. There's also the aspect of the girl's innocence. The cross could be taken as a phallic symbol. You know, he uses this phallic imagery to destroy her innocence. It's a whole thing. Basically, this girl feels violated by this man. Her God did not protect her when she was violated. She runs after the man, and as a result of being violated, she loses her innocence, which is why when she hits the water, she becomes a more mature version of herself. In Japanese culture, water represents both femininity and womanhood, so this really does solidify that for me. And then all of those eggs coming out of that girl, becoming those birds, I believe represents the beginnings of reincarnation. That girl has stopped being who she once was and has become something entirely new. Her final breath has given birth to hundreds of possibilities. So why does the girl become part of the all-seeing eye? Well, throughout her life, she followed this blind faith. So as a result, she took her place in the all-seeing eye. She followed the blind faith and now is in that blind faith for eternity on that eye. The overall message I get from this movie is, don't follow blind faith. Live how you fucking want to live. And if how you want to live is as a Christian, good for you. Do it. Be a decent person, be a Christian, be whatever, don't hurt other people. But at the end of the day, be prepared to have things taken away from you, because that is the only universal thing amongst everyone, is that things will be taken away from us. There are a few other bits and pieces of Angel's Egg that I do just want to cover that didn't fit into the overall theory. So you have the statues and the fish. So Christians back in the day, when they couldn't outright say they were Christians, used to call themselves fishers of men. Fish, men chasing fish. Basically, these men are chasing blind faith. You can't catch faith, there's no solid evidence for faith, that's why it's faith. And the fact that they're causing destruction everywhere they go represents how many wars Christianity, religion as a whole, has caused. And then also we have the fact that our Christ-like character appeared in a tank. If you look through history, you'll find so many very suspiciously similar stories to the story of Jesus. Heracles is an example of it. You have all of these people through history that basically fill the same job as Jesus. So when you line them up one after another, they lose their uniqueness, and you begin to realize these characters, these individuals, are only unique when you single them out. There's a lot more to say on this movie, but that's where I'm going to be leaving it. So before I end this, I do just want to say one thing. This is just what I'm picking up from this movie. It's not necessarily my own opinions on Christianity, it's just what I'm getting from a movie. It's super effective! Okay guys, that is it for today. So do you want to see more sort of in-depth movie analysis like this? Please let me know in the comments down below. Also don't forget to thumbs up, subscribe, do all of my social links, and check out my Patreon because patrons are sexy, and if you're not a patron, you're only like, I mean, you're there, but like you're in the corner dancing on your own.